Welcome back to Barrel Brothers and to part 3 of Motorcycle Mania, where I get obsessive and spend way too much money. Honestly, I thought I spent way too much money, but as it's turning out, I think I might, if I ever decide to sell them, I think I'll definitely make a profit on it. But here's where it all started. This guy here. So this is the one, as you can see, there's like all the frames powder coated, everything's sort of nice, new tyres on it. There was only a couple of things wrong with it. It had the wrong stickers on the side plates. It had the wrong exhaust on it. This is the last year, these are the K4. So this is the last year where they had that exhaust and this motor and the 4-speed gearbox. After this they went to a 5-speed and they changed, so they didn't have that like dinky little mudguard. But these are they're just gorgeous, cute little bikes. But yeah, now got the original exhaust on. It still hasn't got the absolutely correct Kickstarter, but that's not a biggie. I put a new original carby on it, so that's pretty cool. There's a little bizzo here that's missing on this one, but it's actually on the bike. And the story of this one, I don't know if you watched the last one, but I bought that and somebody had slazzed up when they rebuilt the motor around there and slazzed up the oil line that goes up to the head. Consequently, cam box, everything was just worn out. And looking around for a new head, I found this. This is a Survivor. It's got a couple of new bits that I had to put on it just to get it going, but like it has those little things like this little gizmo that you hardly ever see. You know, they got taken off and they lost original sort of, well, original everything, you know, rust on the wheels. I showed you the cracks in the tyre, didn't I? Like wow, baby, stand your ruler up on it. Original mudguard, it's cracked. So what's new on it? Okay, the Kickstarter rubber, the shock absorbers, because they were actually the wrong ones. I didn't put this on, but that is not the original back mudguard, so I'd say it's been flipped at some stage of the game. Somebody's put a too big tyre on it, and then to make it miss the swing arm, has sliced all the side knobs off. But that's pretty cool. And the original dented pipe, genuine Honda, that one, that's really cool. This could be the old seat, I'm not 100% sure. I think this has been changed, definitely the sticker's been changed because it should be there, but it's back here. So, and the color doesn't quite match, so I'd say that's been changed at some stage. But this one, all it needed was a rebore, which we did. It's a cracker now. Yes, so it's really a nice bike, that one. I think I bought the RM80X RM80, which is in pieces that we're just building up at the moment. The forks are getting done, and Will, my motorbike mechanic, who's slow but does a really good job, especially on suspension, very good at suspensions. Anyway, I'll put a link for him down in the description. He's rebuilding the motor at the moment. It actually ran. I'm still having a little trouble finding a couple of bits for that, but most of it's there, but the exhaust pipe was cracked. They're all cracked, the old 2-stroke ones. There's a little muffler sort of kinks up and out the back. It was the same as the RM80X that we showed you in the last episode. Yeah, I need one of those, but apart from that, it's essentially mostly there. This one I got as a part of a job lot. That's a YZ80J. It came with the CR80 that I have, and it also came with a YZ80C and a YZ80D, which I put aside and I thought I'll do them up later, but then it was just, I put it in the too hard basket. And that selling those two paid for the Yamaha and the CR80 as well. Originally I had two YZ80Cs and a YZ80D. I sold those off. They're just too hard to get parts for. I kept this one. I don't know why, it leaks. We still need a couple of bits and pieces. I need to do the paint on here. That's an aftermarket side plate, but I do have the original aftermarket rear guard, aftermarket front guard, aftermarket front plate, original tank, but it needs there's a little guard that goes over the side of the expansion chamber here, which got just as hot as the expansion chamber, but you know, it'd be nice to have that original bit. As you see, like, I don't like them perfect. And as I explained last time, there's the radiator is here and it goes through the headset, so you put coolant in it and it leaks. This was just full of, that's the pump, was just full of crud. So I cleaned all of that out and then it commenced leaking. Cleaned it all out and now it leaks. Anyway, these are a significant bike in the fact that they are for the YZ80s, they are the first of the water cooled and they are the last that have the cantilever suspension with the shock that goes across the top there. After that they had everything, everybody went to the, the Pro Link, that sort of suspension on it. So, what are we doing today? I've got a seat cover for this one too, which I might put on at some stage, but I don't know, it sort of looks good how it is. These have been sitting for a while, so that's basically the problem. Sitting with petrol in them, that's the problem. So I've got to clean them all out, and today's job is to get them going. Now I think the easiest one will be that one. Drop whatever petrol's in it out, because it'll be lumpy crap now. Clean the carby out, I'm betting that'll go. That one has always been hard to start. It's just the motor's not super duper in it. It runs, but not fabulous. This one is an unknown quantity. The fuel tap doesn't leak, which is interesting, but it's got two-stroke in it. So what'll be in the tanks, and what happens with two-stroke is the petrol all evaporates off and leaves the oil. So you get a tank full of, you know, a layer of oil inside the tank. So anyway, we've got some fresh petrol for it. We'll see if we can get it going, and yeah. Not for highway use. So as expected, this bike has been sitting for 6 months or more. People wonder why I like old Hondas, old Honda 4-strokes. It's still got the petrol that was in. I haven't changed a damn thing. I thought I'll just give it a kick and see if it goes. Second kick, it fired. Haven't cleaned the carby, haven't done a damn thing. Haven't cleaned the spark plug. Took the choke off, 2 more kicks and it ran, as I'll demonstrate. It won't start now because we're on film. What did I tell you? Gotta love an XR75, don't you? So the second XR, I didn't even bother trying. It didn't have any fuel in the tank, and I thought, oh, that's good. I drained the fuel out of the tank, but then I drained a little bit out of the carby. Doesn't look real flash, does it? It smells like paint. We better give this guy a bit of a clean out. I was right. That's just disgusting, and it stinks. That is not real flash either. So we'll give her a clean out and see if we can get this little sucker going. Okay, while I have this carby here in bits, I thought I might explain how they actually work. It's a pretty simple principle, and it all comes down to Bernoulli's principle. If air speeds up, the pressure drops, and that creates a low pressure. So, you know, the shape of an aircraft wing, it's flat on the bottom and it's curved on the top. So that makes, as you're flying through the air, the air on the top speed up as it goes over the wing, and that drops the pressure and actually sucks the plane up in the air. Airplanes all suck up in the air. So that's how planes work. But the same principle is here in this carburetor. If you look down the guts there, you notice it narrows and constricts down the center, and what that does, it's like 2 aircraft wings like that. So as it goes through that area, speeds up, pressure drops, and sucks the fuel out. I can give you a couple of demos. Actually, first of all, I'll demonstrate Bernoulli's principle to you. It's pretty easy. You can do it with a spoon and a tap. Here's our spoon. Note the back of it is a wing shape. So if we get a constant stream of water going here, and we just hold it like that, so you can see I'm not actually doing anything. Now it should hit that and bounce outwards, right? Wrong, watch. See how it sucks in? Isn't that cool? So, how does this pertain to getting petrol into an engine? I can demonstrate that too. Now if we dunk one end in there and get an airline and go across the top, that should suck some fluid out. Because the pressure drops here, it will actually suck this fluid up and blow it out the top. That's how spray guns work. Got to get just the right angle, otherwise it goes in. There we go. See that? Now I've got crap all over my hands. As that air is going through there, it speeds up to get through the guts of it. So here's our carby. This is the main jet here. So that is a hole in the middle there, the little brass thing down there. That's our main jet. As the air speeds up, it sucks fuel out of the bowl, which is this thing. Fuel's all in there, and it mixes it through. Our slide throttle, which is over there on the bike, so I can't quite show you that at the moment, but actually I'll show you with my finger. That slides up and down and increases and decreases the amount of air going in, and then fuel's mixed with it. With your idle, you've got an idle circuit here, which is, I'm pretty sure it's that little one there. That's the main jet. Okay, so what's all this floaty crap? If you look under here, there's what's called a needle in a seat. So the needle is hooked onto the, actually we can pop that out so you can see it. So if I pull that out, that's your floats, and there's the needle, and that's the seat in here. See, it's got a little point on it. Well, that point opens and closes that hole in there. So if we put that back in, as the fuel fills up in the carby through that little hole, it fills up and it makes the floats float. And as they float upwards, that will block this off, and then this sucks the fuel out down through there, which drops the fuel level, float upwards, block it off as it fills up, and it's just a constant cycle. So that's what floats do. I actually think they're in upside down at the moment, so I better fix that up. But what happens is over time these generally get holes and then they sink, and then they're no longer floats and they don't work. And you can still see the junk on them where it was sitting in the crappy varnish. It smells like varnish, that's what it smells like. Floats up, closes off, sinks down and fills it back up again. That's how carbies work. Generally they work on a butterfly, or these ones work on, these are a slide type, so yeah. They don't get much simpler than this thing though. Or smaller, look at that. The carbies on the 80, the 2-strokes, are the throat on them, that bit in there, is bigger than this. Carbies back on. What's the 3 things you need to make anything, well, what's the 3 things you need to make fire? You need air, you need a fuel of some sort, which we'll have as soon as I put some in there, and you need an ignition source, or fire. Well, that's how you make fire. So it's got to have those. So you take any one of those 3 things away, won't burn. Fuel's good. Let's see if we've got a spark. Oh, small one. Okay, let's see if we have a spark. I'm seeing nothing. So it appears we do have a spark. I had to turn the lights off to find it. It was pretty easy to find on that one. I'll check that one at the same time. That's got a big fat spark, so I'm thinking that that's probably why this guy has been difficult to start. You look at that spark plug, it looks like it's never been used. Whereas old mate over here runs all the time. Pretty obvious that's been running. It's got black stuff on the end of it, so obviously it runs. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. Might be kicking for a while. I'll put it on camera, then it definitely won't start. So we've got air, you can tell because I'm not dying. We've got spark. It's not a very fat spark. I think that's why we've had trouble getting it started in the past. The third thing we need is fuel. Give it a kick in the guts and see what happens. And it's times like these when like clear fuel line comes in handy. You can see stuff actually happening. This has got a little clear filter halfway down the fuel line, so makes things a little bit easier. That should be enough for 2 to 3 hours knowing these things. We're looking at the size of that carby. Fuel cap back on. Fuel tap's leaking. I'm not seeing any fuel going in. I'm seeing it leak out of here, but no fuel's going in. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so there should be some in the carb now. It's not even like an original tap. It's a new one. Somebody's put a new one on there. The bloody thing's leaking. How annoying. All right, so we're going to have to fix that up. It's probably the little, these ones have a little bowl on the bottom of them, but in the meantime, let's see if we can get it going. It's got fuel. Choke. Ooh, third kick. It's unusual for this one. This is the kind of bike that, you know, people come in, they find me lying on the floor after having had a heart attack, and my epitaph reads, died trying to start one of his stupid bikes. You can hear that motor's a little bit noisier at the top end. Working. Forgot two things. Forgot to take my glasses off and I forgot to pump the tyres up. We'll do those two things and then we'll give it another go. On, leaking, yeah. Alrighty, tank's off. Pretty easy to get off on these things. Dumped all the fuel out of it. These little gizmos that fit on the front, and that just goes on the tab on the back. Comes apart real easy. This tank has actually been coated on the inside. I don't know if you can see that, which is something I have to do with the other steel tank bikes, the two RMs and the other XR75. But it looks to me like it is leaking from in between the fuel tap and the tank. So when you screw this little fuel bowl off, it appears there's just one rusty screw in there. So there we go. Yep, that's how it comes off. Just has an O-ring, looks like in there, which we might be able to replace out of the O-ring set. And looks like somebody's had a bit of a go at it already with something that is not petrol compatible. First off, we'll try and see if we've got an O-ring in the O-ring kit that will stretch and go around that one. Alrighty, so here are our options. That's the original one off it. As you can see, it's just squashed flat and it's fairly hard. And this is what we've got as replacements. So this one, which is the right section, but is too short, we could probably bigonize it or wangle it in there somewhere. Or this one that's slightly bigger and is not the right section, but might do the job better because it'll take up the gaps. Or we could just slaz it up with some petrol compatible slaz and put it back in. Alrighty, so we might manage to get the closest O-ring in there, and in the process I dropped one of these little tiny screws and now it's gone forever. I've just spent the last 10 or 15 minutes looking for it. When I was doing something here, I felt something hit my boot and it probably ricocheted off that and it went to the center of the earth. Anyway, so we know it goes anyway. I will find another fuel tap for it. An original one would be good. Notice how the fuel tap is on the back here. That's off, that's on, that's reserve over there. If I can find an original, that'll be really good. This one sticks out the side, so it's the wrong way around. But anyway, we know that one's going. Let's have a go at getting this Yami going. Okay, while I had the seat and I'm getting the tank off this thing, I thought I'd show you the cantilever thing that Yamaha came up with back in the 1980s. The bigger bikes came out a little bit sooner, but the 80s came out with it in 1978 in the YZ80E. Yeah, because I had a D that didn't have it. Yes, YZ80E. So what they were trying to get around, if you remember from the last one, having shocks sort of straight up, it limits the travel, so they're leaning the shocks forward and leaning the shocks forward and leaning the shocks forward. And this was sort of the first big way to get around that. So what they've done is they have a large triangulated swing arm, and the shock absorber actually attaches here at the back and right up here at the front, so it runs along the top of the bike. This is the last bike with them. This is a YZ80J and this is from 1982. So, and the only reason they went away from this system onto the Kawasaki type system, which is the lever system where all the shocks down, this is pretty much everything has it now because it's just a damn good idea, is this puts the shock quite up high in the frame and it makes the center of gravity too high. But as a suspension system, it was basically the best until Kawasaki came out with the, I think they called it Pro Link or something or other, some link. Anyway, yeah, Kawasaki came out with it and then everybody adopted it because I think it's still used today. It's just the best system. Anyway, that's how it's done. That shock is toast. Well, there's oil on the outside of it, and the other thing is the bush down this end is a bit clunky. The damping still works on it, how long for I don't know, but the bushes are all shot, so won't be riding this one around a lot. Haven't really worried about it because it leaks because of the terrific cooling system in it. Now we just got the carby off it. That's what came out of it. Like we haven't got smell-o-vision because the smell is quite distasteful. This stuff just isn't coming out. So I'm going to give it a quick hit in the blaster on a low pressure. Means we've got to clean all the glass out of it afterwards, but that's just not cleaning off. Literally 30 seconds. I love my vapor blaster. Okay, she's all back together. What's the first thing you notice between this one and the XR75 carby? It's a lot bigger because it makes at least double the power, probably more like triple. That doesn't mean it's fun to ride. A lot of these things are pretty serious bikes. Whereas the old XRs, good little fun bikes, you can putt around on them, you can give them to kids. These things are, this and the CR and the RMs, they're serious bikes. So, all right, let's get this thing together and see if we can get it started up. That's the interesting bit. Something else that I meant to show you too is these. This is a reed valve. This sits, like the carby sits there, is going through that way. Okay, through there and then through the reed valve. So what these things are is basically a one-way valve. You used to be able to get hotted up versions and whatnot, but yeah, basically the thin spring steel. I don't know if you know how two-strokes work, but they're not a very efficient engine, but they make crap loads of power because they're two-stroke. You know, your average four-stroke, every four strokes, you know, stroke is either up or down. So suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Suck the fuel in, squeeze it up tight, compression, ignition, bang, blows the piston down, and then the next one goes up and exhaust. Well, two strokes do it in two strokes, down, up. So every time that piston hits the top, it's firing and pew. So to keep that compression in and whatnot, these, and stop things blowing back with the porting that they had these things to stop it, like it's a one-way valve. So if you ever get one of these old bikes, pull the carby off and pull this out and make sure that these aren't cracked, because they can crack and go into your engine and make a bit of a mess. Because this, you know why? Do you know why you put the oil in the petrol in a two-stroke? Because when it sucks in, it actually goes through the crankcase. So as that piston comes down, it goes around, it lubricates the big end bearing and down the bottom there, and that actually helps the way that works. The piston comes down, so you imagine the piston's coming down, it's actually compressing the crankcase. This stops that blowing back out to the carby, so it actually blows the fuel air mixture into the cylinder. Clever, isn't it? But yeah, it's fairly wasteful because some of it goes out the exhaust and a little bit. Man, do they produce some power. And yeah, nobody produces two strokes anymore, I don't think, unfortunately. These, I don't see any more of these, I don't think, I don't know. Is anybody producing two strokes still? Incidentally, while I think about it, that's why two strokes smoke a lot when they've been sitting for a while, because that fuel air mixture, as I said before, the fuel evaporates and leaves the oil. All the oil, it just sits at the lowest point, which is the crankcase. So it's got to crank through a few times to clean that. Usually, and if your bike's been sitting for a long while, it'll take a while to get that oil out. You might end up with oiled up plugs and that sort of stuff too. But if you take for a decent ride, you know, get them running for a while, they'll eventually clear up and the smoke will dissipate. But yeah, the Honda, that took maybe half an hour, 3/4 of an hour before it stopped smoking. We got there in the end, but yeah, while we were scaring ourselves silly on it. Shout out to Marty. You did well, mate. Alrighty, that's all back together. Now we'll just do a quick check of the spark plug, and then it's time to put some fuel in it. Notice the two on this one, because I've got two drums, and I decided to put the 4-stroke in that one, so the other fuel goes in this one. Been waiting here for a guy that's been blowing leaf with a, well, had a leaf blower going for at least 30 minutes. And it's good because he usually blows stuff sitting in the middle of the road now, but there's a lot of time when I've seen it blown right up into my yard, and he sort of got down to just outside the gate here and realised I was still here because I was leaning on the bike exactly like this and looking at him. And then it started to get blown over the other way. So anyway, let's throw a little bit of fuel in it and see if we've got any leaks first up. That's going to be the first thing. If I remember correctly, this one, the last time I rode it, well, it leaks water, we know, but it was actually leaking fuel. I think the float levels weren't right, or it needs a new seat, needle and seat. Something wrong with my mouth at the moment. We'll throw just a bit in. Well, we know the fuel tap's not leaking because it had fuel, or gunky fuel in it before, and it wasn't leaking. So we'll just turn it on. No leaks, which means one of two things: either there's no fuel in the carby, or we'll see. Once we get it started up, we'll know. It's usually after that that it happens. Put a bit more in because 2 strokes use a lot more than 4 strokes. The other problem with this one is the choke doesn't stay on, so when you kick it, you've got to have one hand on the choke to actually hold it on. As I said, it's been a while. Might try my 2-stroke thing where you give it 2 or 3 kicks with the choke on and no throttle, and then one flat out and see what happens. Tally ho. Oh, did that fire? All right. Not very smoky either. Loud though. Clutch needs adjusting. All right, we need to adjust the clutch. Because that, yeah, as soon as it went into gear, it just took off. Clutch adjusted, let's give it another crack. On. Still grabbing a little. It's a brand new clutch. This is, I remember now, as I put a brand new clutch, it was slipping to buggery. So we just need to keep a few revs up until it breaks in, basically. The original idea was this. Perfect for car shows, don't you think? That was a cracker. But it quickly devolves. And that's how you end up. I thought I was paying a lot for these at the start, but as it turns out, most of these have doubled in price since I bought them. But here's the thing. They're not worth anything if you're not going to sell them. Something to think about. My favourite? Him. He's the best. It's just a cool little bike. Probably that thing just for the danger factor. This is very powerful. This is really powerful. That's actually not a bad bike. It's a fun bike. It's not as fast as these two. That's probably the most powerful, and it's the scariest to ride too. That's when I just rode it around here, and I haven't ridden it much. So I lifted the front wheels 2 or 3 times, 2nd and 3rd gear. So I need to lean forward more. All right, so there you have it. Bit off the back onto wheels next week, I promise. Or next week, next episode, I promise. But thanks for watching. See you next time.